The sun was already setting on the long stretch of asphalt just outside Austin, Texas. Naomi Brooks had just finished her shift at the veterinary clinic and was driving home when her headlights caught movement near the roadside. She slowed down, heart skipping. A large dog, limping and trembling, staggered out from behind a bush. His coat, golden and thick, was matted with dust and streaked with blood from a cut on his hind leg. But what caught her eye was the collar. Black leather, embossed with gold initials. This wasn't a stray. This was someone's beloved pet. Naomi pulled over and got out, crouching slowly. "Hey there, baby," she whispered, her voice gentle, practiced. The dog's ears twitched. He didn't growl. That was a good sign. She reached into her car and grabbed a protein bar. "You hungry?" she asked, unwrapping it. The dog sniffed, whimpered, and limped forward. Naomi saw the tag then, Atlas, and under it, a number and a microchip ID. She spent the next 10 minutes coaxing him into her back seat, speaking to him like she would any nervous patient. Once they were on the road, she glanced in the rearview mirror at her new companion. "Looks like you've had quite the day, Atlas." By the time she got him to the clinic, everyone else had left. But Naomi didn't hesitate. She turned the lights back on, prepped the exam room, and got to work. The wound was deep but not life-threatening. No broken bones. She cleaned him up, bandaged his leg, and gave him pain medication. Atlas curled up on a blanket she kept in her office. He whined softly, then fell asleep. Naomi sat back in the rolling chair and exhaled. She should have gone home hours ago, but leaving him alone wasn't an option. The next morning she scanned the microchip. The database returned a name that made her blink. Ethan Caldwell, a billionaire philanthropist, CEO of multiple biotech companies, regular on Forbes covers. She barely finished the call when the front door buzzed. 2 men in black suits walked in first. Then came the man himself. Ethan Caldwell was taller than she expected, with graying temples and a cold kind of stillness. His tailored coat hung open over a crisp shirt. But his eyes, gray, sharp, were only looking for one thing. "Atlas!" His voice cracked. The dog's ears perked up. Then he rose, limped forward, and pressed his head into the man's leg with a deep, relieved sigh. Ethan fell to his knees. He hugged the dog tightly, stroking his back as if checking that he was real. Naomi watched silently, moved despite herself. He stood and looked at her. "You found him?" She nodded. "He was by the road. I patched him up." "I owe you everything. What do you want? Money? A donation?" Naomi shook her head. "I didn't do this for a reward. It's what anyone should have done." Ethan studied her, surprised by her answer. "At least let me." She raised her hand. "Just sign the discharge and take him home. He'll need follow-ups, but he'll be okay." As she handed him the clipboard, something caught his eye. Something on her hand. A ring, not just any ring. His fingers trembled as he pointed. "That ring. Where did you get it?" Naomi instinctively moved her hand back. "It belonged to my grandmother." His breath caught. He stepped closer, gaze locked on the antique silver band with a delicate blue stone. There, on the inner edge, the faint initials, MC. "I've seen that ring before," he whispered. Naomi stiffened. "She worked for a family named Caldwell, a long time ago." He went still. "She was a housekeeper, fired under suspicion of theft. She always said she was innocent, but no one ever listened. Ethan's eyes widened. That ring. It disappeared after my father died. It was my grandmother's. My family accused someone of taking it. Naomi's voice turned hard. Then maybe you owe her more than just an apology. Later that night, Ethan sat alone in his study. He had opened the old storage trunk buried under boxes in the Caldwell estate. Inside were journals, photos, and letters, and in one of them, dated 30 years ago, was an entry. Maria swears she didn't take the ring. I don't know what to believe anymore. Father refuses to hear her out. He's already had her dismissed. Maria, the same name Naomi had mentioned. He leaned back, heart thudding. His family had destroyed this woman's life, and now her granddaughter had rescued the only creature he truly trusted. The next morning, he returned to the clinic, not with security, not with gifts, but with questions. Naomi looked surprised to see him again. I read the journals, he said quietly. Your grandmother, she was telling the truth. My father was wrong. We were all wrong. Naomi folded her arms, skeptical. And what are you going to do with that truth now? Ethan looked down at Atlas, now resting at her feet, tail thumping lazily. I want to set it right, not with money, with something real. In the weeks that followed, Ethan made good on his word. He opened an inquiry into past employees, cleared Maria Brooks's name in the family's records, and announced a foundation in her honor. But Naomi declined his offers to join his board or lead one of his projects. Instead, she took a grant from the foundation and opened a low-cost veterinary clinic in East Austin, a place for people like her and her grandmother. On the day of the clinic's opening, Ethan stood beside her, silent, as reporters asked about his new venture. He finally spoke. Today isn't about business. It's about justice, for a woman we failed, and for her granddaughter, who didn't fail us. Naomi said nothing, but she wore the ring again, this time not as an heirloom from a broken story, but as a symbol of what was rebuilt. Naomi Brooks stood in the cool hallway of the newly opened East Austin Veterinary Clinic. The sunlight filtering through the tall windows warmed the clean white walls, now lined with photos of community pets and smiling owners. But she didn't notice the decor. Her eyes were fixed on the envelope in her hands. It had arrived that morning. No return address. Thick, aged paper. Inside, a single sheet of stationery with embossed lettering. Brooks Household Employment. Termination Review, June 18, 1994. At the bottom, in a signature she'd never seen before in real life, but instantly recognized from news photos. Alistair. Caldwell. Naomi's hands trembled. She looked up as the clinic's receptionist poked her head in. Naomi? Mr. Caldwell is here to see you. Ethan again. She sighed, folded the letter, and walked out. Ethan stood in the waiting area with a leather binder tucked under his arm. He looked more tired than usual, his eyes darker, his jaw unshaven. Atlas sat loyally beside him, tail swishing gently as Naomi approached. Bad time, he asked. Naomi crossed her arms. That depends. What's in the binder? He held it up. Family records, everything I could find on the household staff. I had my legal team go through the archives, quietly, and I think you'll want to see this. Naomi hesitated, then nodded to a small office. In here. They sat across from one another, the dog settling between them like a bridge and a witness. Ethan opened the binder. I need to warn you. What's in here? It won't be easy to read. Naomi braced herself. The first few pages were standard. Employment contracts, background checks, references. Then came the accusation. Maria Brooks found in possession of Caldwell heirloom. Ring presumed stolen. What they didn't report, Ethan said, flipping the page, is that the ring was never officially appraised or photographed. No proof of ownership, only hearsay from my Uncle Marcus. He was the one who claimed he'd seen it in her apron pocket. Naomi's face hardened. So one man's word ruined her life. Ethan nodded. And he was lying. I found this. He handed her a yellowed letter, folded twice. Alistair, please speak to Marcus. He's being cruel to the staff again. He accused Maria of stealing that ring, but I know I left it in my mother's jewelry box. This has gone too far. Marianne Caldwell. My grandmother, Ethan explained. She tried to defend Maria, but by then my father had already fired her. No hearing, no severance, just silence. Naomi read the words again, her eyes burning. All these years, she said softly, and no one listened to her. She died carrying that shame. Ethan closed the binder. Not anymore. Later that week, Naomi visited her mother's home for dinner. The house was modest, warm, filled with framed family photos and the scent of rosemary chicken. Her mother, Helen, poured sweet tea as Naomi laid the letter and the binder on the table. Helen adjusted her glasses. Where did you get all this? Ethan gave it to me. He had his team dig through the Caldwell estate files. Her mother scanned the documents, her face unreadable. I never saw the ring until I was 16, Helen said after a long silence. Your grandma pulled it from a sewing kit and told me this was supposed to be my pension. I thought she was joking. Naomi looked at the ring on her finger. It wasn't a joke. No, Helen said quietly. It was a wound. They ate dinner in silence after that, the air between them heavy with unspoken history. 2 weeks later, Ethan invited Naomi to attend the unveiling of the Caldwell Foundation's new wing at a major hospital downtown. She initially declined, but when she learned the wing was dedicated to wrongfully accused care workers and would feature a memorial plaque for Maria Brooks, she changed her mind. The event was upscale, white linen, champagne flutes, a press wall with gold logos. Ethan wore a dark navy suit, hair carefully styled, but Naomi noticed he looked uncomfortable among the socialites and CEOs. His world, not hers. Thank you for coming, he said, as she joined him near the entrance. I'm not here for you, she replied evenly. I'm here for her. He nodded, accepting that. The speech Ethan gave was short but heartfelt. This wing is not just a medical space, he said. It is a place of reckoning. My family's legacy has shadows. Today, we acknowledge them, and we honor the people we failed, including Maria Brooks, a woman of grace, wrongly cast aside. The applause was polite, but Naomi could feel something shift, something long overdue cracking open. Later, as the crowd mingled over hors d'oeuvres, an older woman approached Naomi. Gray hair, designer scarf. She introduced herself quietly. Marianne Caldwell, she said, Ethan's grandmother. Naomi froze. I should have done more, Marianne said, voice trembling. When they fired Maria, I knew it was wrong, but I let my son talk over me. I've lived with that for decades. Naomi searched the woman's eyes, not for apology, but for truth. She never stopped being proud, Naomi finally said. Even when they gave her nothing, she gave everything. Marianne's lips trembled. Then I hope this is a start. They hugged, awkwardly, but real. Back in East Austin, Naomi's clinic became a quiet success. Local families brought their pets in regularly. A mural appeared on the back wall. Atlas, the dog who brought everything to light, painted lying peacefully beneath a tree of justice. But one night, as Naomi closed up, she saw someone waiting outside. Ethan. "Thought I'd swing by," he said. "I heard about the mural." "You're not here for the mural?" He exhaled. "You're right. I found something else." "In the archives." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "Another skeleton?" "More like a confession." They went inside. Ethan unfolded a letter, this one handwritten in ink, dated 1996. "If you're reading this, I've probably passed. I owe the truth to whoever finds this. Marcus Caldwell lied about Maria Brooks. I knew it. I did nothing. I let our name stand while hers was buried. Forgive me. Alistair Caldwell." Naomi's hand clenched into a fist. And yet, no apology to her. Just guilt, sealed in a box. "It's not enough," Ethan agreed. "But I want to do more." He hesitated. "There's a fund I'm starting for historically displaced workers, women like your grandmother, nurses, housekeepers, caretakers, people erased by wealth and silence. I want you to run it." Naomi shook her head. "I have my clinic. That's where I belong." "I'm not asking you to leave it. Just lead the advisory board. Help us get it right." She didn't respond. Not yet. A month passed. Naomi visited her grandmother's grave. She sat by the weathered stone, her hand resting on the ring. "I met your accusers," she said softly. "I heard their apologies. But I didn't do it for them." A breeze rustled the grass. A mockingbird chirped from the oak overhead. "I did it for you?" She stood up, brushing dust from her jeans. She made her decision. The announcement came in the form of a press release. Dr. Naomi Brooks to chair Caldwell Foundation Initiative for Historical Labor Justice. Media outlets ran features on her. A young black veterinarian leading a program rooted in legacy repair. Ethan stayed out of the spotlight by request. The work, she said, wasn't about him. But one day, at a school event in her neighborhood where she spoke about animal care, Ethan arrived with Atlas. No press, no speech, just a quiet thank you. Afterward, he lingered. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if things had been different?" "You mean if your family hadn't stolen my grandmother's dignity?" Ethan winced. "I meant if we had met some other way." "Without history between us." Naomi looked at him. "There's always history, Ethan," she said. "The only question is what we do with it." She walked back to the schoolyard where children were gathered to pet Atlas. And on her finger, the ring caught the sun, no longer just a relic of pain, but a symbol of truth reclaimed. The spring sun hung low over East Austin, casting a warm amber glow across Naomi Brooks' clinic. It had been nearly a year since she found Atlas on the roadside, since the ring on her finger turned from heirloom to truth bomb, since Ethan Caldwell stood in her office, offering more than gratitude, offering accountability. Now the clinic bustled with life. Children giggled in the waiting room. A high school intern took notes on a senior beagle's arthritis. On the reception desk sat a small plaque, the Maria Brooks Community Veterinary Center for those who gave and were never properly thanked. Naomi stood in her office, holding a fresh letter from the Caldwell Foundation's legal team. Final confirmation. Her grandmother's name had been fully cleared in all family records, publicly and permanently. But what held Naomi's attention more wasn't the letter. It was the envelope attached to it. Inside, a deed to the house Maria Brooks once lived in, now returned to the Brooks family name. Naomi exhaled, sat down, and felt the weight of something ancient shift off her shoulders. A quiet knock interrupted her thoughts. "Come in." Ethan stepped inside, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You're still a tea person, but I tried to remember the one you don't hate." Naomi smirked. "Lavender oat milk?" He handed it over. "I live in fear of getting it wrong." She accepted the drink, her tone softening. "You didn't have to come in person." "I wanted to." They sat in the tiny office, the silence between them far more comfortable than it used to be. "I have to tell you something," Ethan said after a moment. "Something I've only told one other person." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "My father's estate, his personal journals. There's an entry, buried in the margins, about your grandmother." Naomi stiffened. It said, "She didn't steal it. She earned it. But she's not one of us, and that makes it complicated." Naomi's throat tightened. Ethan continued, his voice edged with disgust. "He knew. He always knew. And he let her take the fall because admitting he was wrong meant challenging everything he believed about status, about race, about loyalty." Naomi stood, the ring cool on her hand, as she pressed her fingers to the window pane. "Your family destroyed hers to protect their version of the truth." "Yes," Ethan said, "but I don't want to inherit that version. I want to bury it." She turned. "Then start with the name." He blinked. "The Caldwell name?" "No," she said. "Yours." A week later, reporters gathered for the Caldwell Foundation's annual gala, a high-profile, high-donor event traditionally held in a glass ballroom downtown. But this year, the backdrop was different. It was hosted on the grounds of a new project, the Justice Garden. Built on land reclaimed from an abandoned Caldwell real estate project, it was transformed into a public park, education center, and archive dedicated to the untold stories of domestic workers, nurses, and laborers lost to history. Ethan stood before the crowd, hands slightly shaking. "My name is Ethan Caldwell," he began, "but tonight I come to retire that name, not in shame, but in truth." Gasps rippled. "I was raised in the shadow of a family legacy built on silence and power. But I've learned that justice requires more than repair. It demands renaming." He paused, then continued. "As of today, I will no longer use the Caldwell name in any of my public or philanthropic work. The foundation will be renamed the Atlas Trust, in honor of the one being who never left my side when the truth unraveled." Polite applause followed. But Naomi, standing near the back, didn't clap. She simply watched. She didn't need performances. She needed follow-through. Back at the clinic, the weeks that followed were quieter. Naomi kept her routine, mornings of surgeries, afternoons of community outreach, evenings reading on her porch. One night, a stranger arrived, elderly, bent slightly with age, and walking a sleek greyhound. Naomi greeted him as she did everyone, But he paused, peering at her. "You Maria's girl?" "I'm her granddaughter," Naomi said. "Can I help you?" He smiled faintly. "She helped me once, long time ago. My wife was sick, and she cleaned our house for next to nothing, but she always brought soup. I never forgot." Naomi felt her chest tighten. The man extended a small, wrinkled hand. "Name's Walter. This here's Lucy. Thought we'd come by. Make sure you knew someone remembered her right." "I remember," Naomi said quietly. "Every day." As she bent to pet the dog, the ring on her hand glinted in the porch light, no longer heavy with shame, but luminous with purpose. Months later, Ethan visited again, not with gifts or news, but with a simple ask. "Come with me," he said. "To where?" "Not far." They drove to the Caldwell family cemetery, a manicured hill overlooking the city. Ethan led her to a gravestone under a newly planted oak. It was simple, elegant. Maria Brooks, 1929-2002. She told the truth even when no one listened. "I had her buried here," Ethan said, "next to my grandmother. It's not about forgiveness. It's about returning what was taken." Naomi stared at the inscription. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "No," Ethan agreed, "but she deserves it. And you deserve to know she wasn't erased." A breeze rustled the tree branches. Naomi knelt, placed her palm on the stone, and whispered, "They see you now, Grandma." And in that moment, the weight of names began to lift. The clinic expanded. Naomi opened a second location in another underserved part of town. The Atlas Trust funded scholarship programs for young black women in veterinary science. But Naomi didn't take their money. She took their platform. At a youth leadership conference, she stood at a podium, speaking not as a symbol, but as a practitioner of quiet power. "My name is Dr. Naomi Brooks. My grandmother's name was Maria. She was a housekeeper, unjustly accused, and she never got her day in court. But I stand here, wearing her ring, not to reclaim wealth, to reclaim narrative. Legacy is not what you leave behind. It's what you restore." She stepped off stage to silence, and then, slowly, the audience rose, not for her name, but for the story. Naomi sat on her porch one evening, a sleeping cat curled at her feet, sipping tea. Across from her sat Ethan, a book on his lap unread. "You ever think this would be where we ended up?" he asked. She glanced at him. Not for a second. They laughed. Not as friends, not quite as lovers, something in between, woven not by romance, but by a shared obligation to truth. Atlas, now older and grayer, dozed nearby. Naomi looked down at her hand. The ring shimmered in the golden light. "Do you ever regret not changing more?" Ethan asked quietly. Naomi shook her head. "I changed everything that mattered." And in the dusk, a wind moved through the trees, not heavy like before, but light, almost grateful, the kind of wind that only blows when justice has finally come home.